What up? You are now tuned into Petty Sports Black, where I am HBCU. Brought to you by Post 880 The Beat, the heartbeat of Atlanta. I'm the host, Famous Feez. They call me Facts. I'm here with my man Adam. Holla at him.
You already know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen. Petty Sports Black coming back at you with another episode. Y'all been loving the interviews, loving the school-by-school breakdown as we go through the SIAC, and we're not stopping anytime soon. You see we got the merch on, nice and fresh. Shout out Feez for the shirt cop. If you guys want one, definitely, let us know. We'll check it out for you. But Feez, what school do we have on deck today, brother?
It's none other than Fort Valley State University, FVSU in the house. We're going to run down the 2021 season, talk about what they got in store for 2022. They've had quite a few changes, new coach, new quarterbacks. It's about to get all the way live. So we're going to jump right into this thing. 2021, FVSU went 5-5. They were 3-3 in the conference. They had a very balanced offensive attack last season. I mean, it was almost dead even. 330 rush attempts to 290 pass attempts last year. So, I mean, especially just looking at the way most of the offenses in the SIAC are set up, that is one of the most well-balanced offenses that we've seen across the conference.
Agreed.
Last year they were led by sophomore quarterback Tyrell Jackson. He played in 9 games, threw for over 1,800 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 10 picks. But he transferred to Johnson C. Smith right behind the departure of head coach Maurice Flowers. So that's going to be a major blow and create a huge void trying to replace the quarterback who took the bulk of your snaps. I mean, you only had 145 yards of passing that came from anyone not named Tyrell last year. So, I mean, that's a major hurdle to jump over. I mean, you have quite a few quarterbacks on the roster, so there are some bright spots. I mean, it's going to take some. The quarterback room is going to be real. It's going to be a super competition.
Yep.
I mean, they've got Kelvin Durham, Randy Jarrell, and Victor Dixon, who were already there last year, but with a new quarterback, with a new coach, it's not like they know the offense because he's bringing in a brand new offense. But they've also got the transfer coming in from Kennesaw State and Arendez Fed. He's joining the QB shuffle. And, I mean, just as it stands, he's likely got to be the favorite that can walk straight in and actually take over that starting QB spot. So, I mean, Fed was a 3-star quarterback coming out of high school.
Yep. He
led his team into the Georgia high school football playoffs, threw for over 1,800 yards and 19 touchdowns, and added another 600-plus yards rushing. So, I mean, he's the type of threat that can come in, especially with a brand-new coach and everybody starting even. He could walk right in and take over the starting spot, even coming from another school, because there is no system to know.
Yeah, definitely agreed with you, man. When you talk about all the quarterbacks that are walking into that room, because you're right, it is a big loss with Tyrell Jackson getting out of there. I mean, you look at some of the games he had against Allen, some of the other big schools in the SIAC, and especially, in that conference in their division. He was definitely big. I mean, you look at the fact that, a huge win in the Red Tails Classic over Tuskegee, 30-0. And then you talk about the major win over Clark Atlanta, 40-7. And we both know that, at least with Clark Atlanta, that's a very well-respected program in this division. And I think a lot of that was possible, obviously, because of Tyrell Jackson coming out there. But, you look at this team in general, they did go 500, obviously 5-5, but, at times they could be a bit polarizing. When they played great, it was absolutely fantastic. But at times, when they would go to fall off in certain games, it would get a bit ugly at times. I mean, you look at the numbers that, outside of Lane and Benedict, it was kind of a lot of one-sided games for FVSU here, losing by an average of 31 points, but then turning right around and winning by an average of 26. So you want to talk about a team that definitely wants to gain some of that consistency, and really just find some solidarity in their game plan. And look, with all the guys that they got coming in, with the guys that we're going to go down on here with, the recruiting class, returning players, I definitely think they got some good energy in the tank. And they start 4-2, go 1-3 down the stretch. So again, you want to see some more of that consistency. You want to get that continuity coming into the team. And let's talk about the defense in the SIAC. I mean, when you're in the same conversation, essentially, as Albany State University, who we did in our first episode, I mean, these guys are giving up 16.8 points per game, which was second in the SIAC, second in defensive yards per game at 287 a game, and they were third in defensive touchdowns, only giving up 15 scores on the year. I think with any type of football program that you look into, whether it's, we're covering here or covering in other aspects, that's pretty remarkable, especially when we talk about, Albany State, when we talk about Allen, when we talk about some of the Benedict teams that are coming around. So being able to have that type of defense is definitely something that you have to give the hats off to. And then you mentioned the passing offense as well, very balanced. The attempts between rushing and passing were essentially the same almost. They were fourth in yards per game in passing, fifth in completion percentage, percentage, which again, you attribute a lot of that to Tyrell Jackson, and you hate to see him get out of there, but, go into another HBCU, kind of moving states, it's tough to see him go, of course, but knowing that he's probably looking for that bigger impact, and not that he didn't impact, obviously, FVSU here, but wanting to carry that on, you can't necessarily blame the kid at the end of the day. When you look at the fact that you would want to see more passing touchdowns out of this team, only 9 in total on the year, and unfortunately that does rank in the bottom 5 of the SIAC, but again, loaded quarterback room, you're bringing in a lot of guys, and when you've got all that competition wanting to make a name, a 3-star coming out of the GHSA, that's huge. Georgia absolutely is always putting out multiple talent, whether it's into college, whether it's into the NFL, and knowing that FVSU has a hold of this guy. And rumors are saying, like you said, he could walk in and potentially start. So that's got to be a major impact for them. But one thing I would like to see in terms of maybe improvements on other sides for this team is they are a bit undisciplined. 70 penalties on the year for 563 yards in 10 games. So really that's 7 flags for 56 yards a game. And, just rallying these guys in. We know we got the new coach walking in, and hopefully all these quarterbacks coming in as well. They're going to be able to build that camaraderie to really be able to speak that language in the locker room, for lack of better terms. And I want to see him get better on third down conversions, man. Only 34% on the year. And, that can kind of explain why some of those losses were really lopsided. But again, you got to be consistent. You got to stay on the field to sustain drives, and you got to be able to mount those multiple touchdowns at the end of the day to dominate really in a loaded, place like the SIAC.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of the new head coach, bringing in Sean Gibbs, he is a whole different beast coming into this platform. He walks in with a very fruitful resume coming out of, he coached at North Carolina A&T and Grambling State. He is one of the guys who produced Tariq Cohen coming from under his coaching. Every year he breeds 1,000 yards rushers. So, his arrival is really a bright spot. The happiest person in Fort Valley is got to be sophomore running back that's coming back for his junior season, Emmanuel Wilson. The dude is 6'1", 220, ran for $119 per game. That is a hellified average. 119 yards a game. In 7 games, he put up 883 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's a touchdown and well over 100 yards every time he laces them up. And now you're getting a coach that is very well versed in pumping out 1,000-yard rushers. So, there's the sky is the limit there. So, if you get a quarterback to come in that actually can run the football as well as throw it, and you have a coach that is able to really put together a passing game as well as what he's shown that he can do. The sky is the limit there. Like, this offense really could take off for 2022 with the combination of Coach Gibbs, Emmanuel Wilson, and possibly Fed at quarterback. So, I'm definitely interested in seeing what they can do moving into the 2022 season. Moving into that, they're definitely going to be looking for huge strides out of Emmanuel Wilson.
Of course.
And also the emergence of wide receiver Aaron Price. He's going to have to be the number 1 guy because there's no more Shamar. Shamar didn't play all the games last year, so he did get a lot of time and a lot of targets last season. So it's not like it's going to be something new for him to be like, I got the other team's best corner guarding me. He spent the better part of last season in that position. So if he can build off the experience that he was able to gain last year, stepping into the number 1 role, knowing that that's my spot now, you've got in a coach that's going to really implement a running game, should open it up to make it even easier for the pass. They might not be as balanced as they were before, but if he's able to implement the running game as well as he has at North Carolina A&T and Grambling, it might actually be for the better that they flip the way that they actually even run their offense. If they get some improved play on the offensive line, which would give their quarterbacks more time. Most of the games where they got really lopsided and they got behind big, they were getting sacked, tackled for loss. Like, quarterback was just under duress. It wasn't even that quarterback was making bad decisions with the football. They were giving him no time. If you can bolster that running game, get the offensive line together, you'll no longer be getting dominated like that by the front sevens by teams like Albany and Savannah, who, those were the 2 schools that really just pressured them, just ridiculous. And they also needed to improve in the secondary. The teams that are able to pass the football, they were able to have their way. They could score with them because they passed the ball as well. But having a passing offense as good as they had is surprising that the secondary was not better than it was. So, they definitely need to have some attention there because there are multiple teams within the SIAC that do come out bolstering very prolific passing offenses, and those will be some serious tests. So, outside of that, just taking care of the football. all the fumbles and the losses. I mean, it wasn't even so much interceptions. They did have them, but the fumbles were so detrimental. Like, you give up a long drive for a touchdown, and then you fumble the kick return, and then they hold the ball again.
Right.
And then you get the ball back, go a couple of plays, and then fumble again. Like, definitely ball security has got to be up near the top of the list. I mean, I know Coach Gibbs is going to do what he does because his system is all about the running game and pumping out these running backs. If he's got a quarterback, he can definitely implement that in there, but they've got to take care of the ball at the end of the day. Like, that's always just a must.
Absolutely, no question about it. You know, you talk about Sean Gibbs coming in, really, really bolstering that run game, and it's like, you know, dang, you look at Emmanuel Wilson, like you mentioned. I mean, the numbers that he had, the touchdowns that he had. Some of the numbers here, I mean, against Allen, 11 carries for 83 yards. You've got it against Clark Atlanta, 23 carries for 161 yards. You've got it against Savannah State, 17 for 130. You got it against Albany State, 26 for 108. So, you know, you kind of sit there and wonder how much better could Emmanuel Wilson get? But, of course, the sky's going to be the limit for him when, again, you bring in a guy like Sean Gibbs who is just going to do nothing but double down on that running game. And, again, with all of the quarterbacks in that room, it's going to be really exciting to see who actually goes out there, earns their stripes, and wins this job, because this is the team that's just trajecting up. And you kind of mentioned there, Feez, you know, getting some protection for their quarterback. And I feel like with a lot of their incoming recruiting class, it's definitely something that they're focusing on with the trenches. And the numbers were great last year. They technically had the third best O-line with only 12 sacks given up all year. And some of the guys are going out to grab. I mean, you got an average height of like 6'6", 6'7", and these dudes are weighing, you know, at least 330, 340 pounds. Quantasius Jenkins out of Daugherty High School, offensive lineman, 6'7", 330. You got Keandre Wisby, offensive lineman, 6'7", 340 pounds out of Rutland High School. Kenneth Colston, 6'6", 320 out of Florida State University Schools. So not only are you going to have competition for that quarterback room, you're definitely going to have competition on your O-line. They were already strong there last year. And again, we talked about it multiple times, Feez.
Sounds like the Colts offensive line. Damn, them boys big.
Right. You talk about, you know, we build from within. You start with your trenches, offense, defense, and they're even going for the defensive side of the ball as well, but we'll obviously move on to that. You know, just getting that protection for those quarterbacks and making them feel comfortable off the rip. You know, all these guys are going to feel fairly fresh, at least walking into this system, and knowing that you've got potentially 4 or 5 guys in the room around you. There's potentially no room for error. There's no room to slip. I mean, you have to be on it every day, up early, you know, down early, everything like that. That's going to be extremely vital for this team. So having that competition on the O-line, bringing in those recruits, it's going to be really great to see how they're able to double down on that. That's one of the biggest things that I'm really going to watch for with Fort Valley here.
Oh, absolutely, man. So moving forward into the 2022 season, we'll jump right into game 1. September 4th, they're going to play Tuskegee at home. They beat them 30-0 last year. This was a game where they went to Shamar Bridges early and often. They absolutely just dominated the third quarter, 21 points in the single quarter out of the 30 that they scored for the game.
Yep.
So it looks like they made some adjustments at halftime, came back out, steamrolled them. I mean, the defense pitched a shutout, so that definitely lets you know just how strong the play on the other side of the football was. This is a game where we'll get to see what Coach Gibbs is trying to install as the identity of this team, especially offensively. And I'm almost certain that running the football is what it's going to be. 1-0 start for new head coach Sean Gibbs. It'll be a great year.
No question about it, man. You laid it all out there. I got a W here over Tuskegee, and you know they had a big W over Tuskegee early on in the season in the Red Tails Classic. And even though Tyrell Jackson did leave, I'm still confident that they'll be able to essentially have a great win against this team. You know, with doubling down on Emmanuel Wilson, all the recruits that they're bringing in, and again, Sean Gibbs going to be a great start to the season for them. He will definitely start 1-0. No question about that, Feez.
Absolutely. Week 2, September 11th versus Kentucky State. And this game is going to be in Chattanooga, Tennessee. This one I feel like will be a shootout because Kentucky State has an explosive offense. I mean, they showed it last season time and time again. Against Central State, they put up 63 points. They had 76 against Ed Waters, and another 49 on Lane. Mm-hmm. So this offense, when it gets rolling, it can go. This isn't the team that you're just going to just run the ball and hope that they're docile. Like they're going to put points on that board. So I mean, Fort Valley will be tested early in this one. This is going to be like the first year starter under center. I don't know if whether it's Fed, whether it's Randall, doesn't matter which one of the quarterbacks it is. Week 2 in your first season as a starting quarterback to get put into a shootout situation where if you don't produce, You lose,
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a bit overwhelming. The run game will get negated by just the firepower on the offense of Kansas State, or I keep calling them Kansas State, of Kentucky State. And, I mean, ultimately, the troubles that they have in the secondary, I think will just be a little bit too great for the Wildcats. And I'm taking Kentucky State. They're going to go 1-1. That'll be the first loss of the season in week 2.
I hear you on that, man. I do think that it will be a very, very big game here for, obviously Fort Valley and Kentucky State. Coming off the big win against Tuskegee, Sean Gibbs really, feeling really great. A lot of motivation, a lot of great energy behind him. But I have faith in them in this game to actually win a shootout with Kentucky State if it goes that far, which it's very likely that it can. Again, when you're talking about what they brought in the trenches, when you're talking about some of the receivers that they brought in that recruiting class, and no matter who makes the cut to be QB1 next year, I think they'll be fantastic. I think they'll be absolutely fine. I got a W here for them over Kentucky State. It'll be a close one. I can see maybe a 35-31 kind of output, but this game will really show Fort Valley who they are when it comes down to your Allens of the schedule, when it comes down to your Morehouses of the schedule, your Benedicts of the schedule. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, but I'll take a W here for Fort Valley. They'll be 2-0 at this point in the season.
Okay, man, I got them 1-1 there, but next week, Allen University at home. Last year, they straight steamrolled them. It was 56-20. I mean, coming off a loss to Kentucky State, I think Fort Valley be highly motivated. They're going to right the ship against this struggling Allen program. Allen isn't offering a whole lot to really just push the envelope. They're going to get an emphatic win to move to 2-1 in this game, and we'll get a chance to see just what the Wildcats are comfortable with being 3 games into the season, really getting a chance to see what kind of systems they're implementing and if the run game is what they're going to lean on or if one of their new quarterbacks is actually going to be the catalyst for this season.
Yeah, this is where I differ with you a little bit here. I do have them taking a loss at Allen because we know this is one of the powerhouses of this conference. We know that Allen literally on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, they make it tough for a lot of teams that they face, and especially with, again, having a new quarterback in there, even with the trenches, even with the running game, even with some of the receivers, knowing how tough it was last year and how big of a loss that actually was. It won't be as bad of a loss. I don't see a 56-20 kind of lopsided event here, but I do believe that they will fall to Allen. Now, again,
they beat them 56-20 last year. They didn't lose.
Oh, excuse me, my bad. Still have them taking the L here though against Allen. My apologies, Feez, but yeah, they will lose this game.
I was like, wait, what? Like, no.
Had it backwards, my man.
Next week, week 4 at Bluefield State. This will actually be their first true road game of the season. The Wildcats are going to absolutely dominate every aspect of this very, very weak Bluefield State team.
Yeah.
They went 4-3 last season, and one of those wins was actually via forfeit. The game, this is going to be a confidence booster. This is where the team really gets rolling. Everyone will be comfortable. It's almost like a scrimmage game. I mean, Bluefield State is just not very good. This is a tune-up game before you really get into the grind of the SIAC schedule. This is a confidence booster. This is a get you ready because the big boys are coming. This will be a steamrolling. They'll be 3-1 coming out of this week.
Yeah, I got a W here over Bluefield State as well. This will be a fairly simple game, like you said, when you look at the coaching, when you look at the talent, the players that are going to be on the field. This game's not going to lie to you at all. It could get ugly quick. You never know. But, yeah, when you look at the, I guess, inferior talent of Bluefield State to Fort Valley, yeah, this should be an easy one. And like you said, the thickness of the schedule is coming up. They're definitely going to need that confidence booster as they go into the stretch here.
Oh, yeah. So, week 5, they host Benedict College. Last year, they beat Benedict 24-14. I mean, even despite the firepower that Benedict has showed us that they actually do have on offense,
right?
They'll be coming off some serious momentum, back-to-back wins, like back-to-back decisive wins. I think they put up a great fight, but I think the offense for Benedict is actually going to be a little bit too much for Fort Valley because Benedict is bringing back a quarterback in Phoenix that was very successful last year. It'll be another year implemented in the same system, and from what we can see with the offense of Benedict, Fort Valley they have holes to plug in the secondary. I think this will be very similar to the Kentucky State game because this is Benedict is a very comparable team to the type of offense that they're going to face against Kentucky State. It'll be the same thing all over again. They will be in the football game, but I don't think they can score enough to beat Benedict as they're coming with offense.
A loss to Benedict there. Yeah, this is going to be another game that's very interesting because I could see it being close. I could see it to where, Fort Valley and Benedict might be kind of trading shots here. And I agree with the weakness of the secondary. That is something that they definitely need to address. But just something tells me here that in this game, Fort Valley will find a way. They'll have the confidence. This will be a big point where Sean Gibbs steps up, and a lot of people will understand that head coaching hire when he comes in, or rather when he's coaching actively in this game. And, kind of some of the stories that were around Sean Gibbs coming in, to Fort Valley. So I'm going to take the W here for them over Benedict. And, the stretch is coming. The stretch is absolutely coming. The talent will really start to be tried here, and you'll start to see that as they, again, get down the stretch, we'll really see what this team is able to be made of. Close game, but they do pull it out here against Benedict.
Okay. Week 6 at Central State. No, Jackson and Wilson both had their way with Central State last year, and we know Jackson is not back. So we're looking at what Coach Gibbs and his offense will do, how they will emerge, whether it's Fed at quarterback or if someone else is actually taking the helm under center. It should be business as usual against Central State because Central State is not a great football team. I think it should be another blowout win. They're going to advance to 4-2, and that'll set the stage for that late SIAC gauntlet, that's why their schedule looked like what it did last year. Well, not their record, rather, where they started off really strong,
right,
and then it kind of went downhill. It's because of the way the schedule is set. Right. It's always set this way. You play the heavy hitters at the end, and that's how your year looks.
Right. Yep. Started 4-2 and went 1-3 down the stretch, like you said. And this schedule does get really, really tough. Y'all can see there on the screen how the schedule is going to play out for the Wildcats this year. But Central State, they beat them last year. I want to say 35-14, if I'm not mistaken. Just want to make sure I got my facts right, so I don't get exposed here.
That's right.
But yeah, a big win over Central State last year. And again, when you just talk about coaching, the talent, where this team is going to be at a certain point in the season, and knowing that they've got an absolute gauntlet on the back end, and I won't spoil the record as to how it's going to go for them in those last 4 games. But yeah, this is definitely going to be one that they have to pull out the W, because you're going to be at a point where, am I going to be able to get to that record that kind of makes me take that next step, or are we going to be chilling around a 5-5, 6-4 record by the time everything plays out? And again, it's going to be tough. You're going to wonder about Tyrell Jackson. You're going to wonder about the solidarity of Emmanuel Wilson. But a W here over Central State, and they're getting ready for the rough 4-game stretch that's coming down the back end of the season for them.
Oh, yeah, the rough 4-game stretch comes in the next week. They play Morehouse College for their homecoming, might I add. Someone at Fort Valley has huge balls to schedule Morehouse for your homecoming.
Yep.
I mean, if for nothing else, the fact that they beat you 51-3 last year, I mean,
right.
that was a horrific showing. I mean, they put up 44 points in the first half.
Yeah. And
you want to schedule this team for homecoming. I mean, they're bringing back Sims and Bailey, and those are the 2 guys that cooked them last year. I mean, even if Coach Gibbs comes in and really changes the culture and it's a far better football team, to convince me that they're going to be 48 points better.
Right.
And the disrespect. I mean, Morehouse is coming in like, oh, you scheduled us for your homecoming? Like,
bet it up.
I mean, they're going to come out ready. Like, oh, okay, we're going to ruin your homecoming. I mean, that's a badge of honor. It'd be like, we went to your house and scrubbed you for your homecoming. I mean, I think that's a bad scheduling piece. I know you can't schedule the same team back-to-back years for homecoming, but you could have scheduled somebody other than Morehouse.
Right.
That wasn't the move. I'm taking Morehouse in this game. So now we're looking at 4-3.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's hard to see this team getting essentially 48 points better from one year to another, especially with the team in Morehouse that, again, the receivers that cook them on the back end, knowing that secondary, it could still be a vulnerability at this point in the season. And this Morehouse game could definitely still show that. Homecoming, same type of team that beat you so bad last year, and it'll just kind of be a testament to, okay, are we reinforcing on those weaknesses? Is Sean Gibbs actually buying in on that? Are these corners and these safeties actually working well together to pass off their coverage? Again, I don't see it being a 48-point better type of game for the Wildcats, so probably won't be a major blowout, but they lost by 10-14. It's reasonable. I do have them losing to Morehouse here in homecoming, though.
Okay, so now they're going into a 3-game road stretch to finish the season. So the schedule just gets rough as it keeps going along.
Yeah.
But, I mean, at least the first one of this 3-game road stretch is definitely a winnable game. They're at Clark Atlanta. They beat Clark 40-7 last year. So, I mean, this would have been the better choice for homecoming, but they played Clark for homecoming last year, and I'm positive that they cannot repeat the same team over and over. They won't let you do that. But Emmanuel Wilson, he went off in this game. I mean, he went for 161 yards on the ground. They just straight pounded them last year. Emmanuel's going to be back. He's going to be in a system with Coach Gibbs that's going to be even more running back friendly. So there's no reason to believe that they won't continue the dominance. I know Clark has a brand new head coach, so they're looking to turn their program around as well. I'm not seeing another 40-7 type of win, but I do think they come to Atlanta and they get the W against Clark.
Yeah, definitely the W here against Clark. And again, we saw the major win last year. I want to say it was 40-7, if I'm not mistaken. And, knowing that you're walking into the same game, we're not walking into the same game, but kind of the same team here, coming off of the, again, not necessarily big loss to Morehouse, but it's going to be tough in homecoming, okay? It's going to be very emotional for people. People are going to remember exactly what happened last year. And like you said, Feez, people are going to wonder who the hell scheduled Morehouse, a team that beat us the worst last year, essentially, for the homecoming game. They come in here with a lot of grit, kind of revenge on their minds, and understanding that they have SSU and Albany State on the back end. This is a must-win right here for the Wildcats. So I do have them winning over Clark Atlanta. Could be a close one. I could envision it that way, but we'll see nonetheless. Definitely a W here.
All right, last two games of the season on the road. First game at Savannah State. Last year they lost to the Tigers at home 24-6. It was another turnover play game. This was a game where they didn't really legit possess the ball in the first quarter because of the turnovers. You get scored on, you fumble the ball, and they just ground and pound you and rely on the defense. I mean, that's how this 24-6 game came to be. I mean, this could really be turned around by ball security. You took yourself out of the game with all the turnovers. Savannah they took so much advantage of the field position that they were given in that game. So heading into the Swamp this year, Savannah should also be an improved football team because they are returning their players, and they also have a new head coach. So we do have a lot of new coaches in the SIAC this year. So it's going to be very interesting to see whose team really responds to them to the best because I count there must be at least 4 new head coaches. There might be more, but we'll get back to that. But I think the Wildcats will ultimately take their 4th L in the season in this game. I think it's a very close game, but on the road, new coach, very strong defense in Savannah. I think they lose a nail-biter.
Yeah. Could be a nail-biter, absolutely, but we talk about the powerhouse of Savannah State, knowing, the type of presence that they have in the SIAC. And this is, kind of always been a tough matchup for this program, when you look at program versus program here. And again, it's going to be a testament of how is Sean Gibbs actually adjusting in the season, because when you go on this hellacious road stretch to essentially end the year, a lot of people are going to look at that. It wouldn't matter if they were, essentially undefeated. Losing as many as they might on the back half of the schedule is definitely going to be tough. And unfortunately, I don't see it any different against Savannah State here, so they will take the L here against Savannah State and be at 6-3 on the season walking into the final week.
All right, so I got them 5-4 going into the final week in the Fountain City Classic out in Columbus against Albany State. They're running into the number 1 team in the SIAC. They're going to be looking to clinch back-to-back titles. I mean, they got dominated in every facet of the game when they played this team last year. It was 57-0.
Yeah.
I think Fort Valley they're going to clean up the turnover issues.
Yeah.
It should make for a much better football game. But I mean, ultimately, just like I told you, I can't see them being 48 points better. I definitely can't see them being 57 points better. Yeah. I don't think they give up 50-plus points in this game because, I mean, when you change the turnovers and you put points on the board,
right,
that completely flips the complexion of the football game. But that does not make you better than Albany, who is the class of the entire SIAC. So I think they ultimately will lose this one as well and finish the season 5-5 with the same record as they had last year.
I think they lose this one also. Again, I don't think it's going to be necessarily a shutout or they're giving up, a 50-burger to this team because I don't believe Sean Gibbs would truly let that happen. I don't believe that the recruits that they're actually bringing in between the trenches, the quarterback room, I don't believe that this team would, again, let a type of mishap that happened last season essentially roll over in that way. Now, it will still be an L here because, like you said, Albany State, one of the better teams in the SIAC, definitely one of the well-respected programs out there. I mean, we talked about them in the first episode, and they're absolutely great. I mean, they have great talent. They have a great front office. They have great coaching, rather. So when you look at FVSU walking into this versus Albany State, it could be a great matchup. Again, don't see them getting 50-plus points better. But if we saw, potentially a 35-21 type of loss here for Fort Valley, it wouldn't be upsetting because you would know that things were changed. They recognize this team coming in and understand that they had to make adjustments. So I do have them finishing 6-4 on the year, losing 3 of the last 4, unfortunately. But again, this is going to be a new look team. You're having so many new faces come in, and it's only going to be a building block. You win or you learn. You never lose.
Absolutely, man. So let us know what y'all think. He's got him at 6-4. I've got him at 5-5 for the 2022 season with brand new head coach Sean Gibbs coming in. Weigh in the comments, like, share, tell a friend, let everybody know. Petty Sports Black. We covering all SIAC schools. Petty Sports Black is brought to you by Pulse 880, The Beat, the heartbeat of Atlanta, and Kings Broadcasting Studios. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Next week, we always keeping it petty, and we out.